The Great Hall of Nexus Station stretched for nearly a kilometer in every direction. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the enormous space, their voices creating a noise that sounded like distant thunder. Jiho Park stood near the entrance reserved for humanity's delegation, watching as more alien species arrived through various doorways. Some walked on legs like humans did. Others floated in tanks of liquid or crawled on multiple limbs. A few existed as pure energy contained within special suits. Jiho adjusted his formal uniform and glanced at the two people standing beside him. Colonel Haeon Kim looked straight ahead with the perfect posture of a career military officer. His face showed no emotion, but Jiho knew his friend well enough to see the tension in his jaw. On Jiho's other side, Dr. Mireille Choi clutched a data tablet against her chest. She was the youngest member of their team, brilliant but nervous in situations like this. "They're staring at us," Mireille whispered without moving her lips. She was right. Everywhere Jiho looked, alien eyes turned toward the human delegation. Some looks held curiosity, others showed clear disgust. A few species appeared afraid, which Jiho found almost amusing. Humanity had been part of the galactic community for 70 years. They had followed most of the rules, paid their fees, and tried to be good neighbors. Yet somehow, they had become the most talked about species in the galaxy. A deep sound echoed through the hall, like a bell made from some massive crystal. All conversations stopped instantly. The council members emerged from a hidden entrance and moved toward their elevated platforms. Each platform floated at a different height, arranged in a complex pattern that supposedly represented each species' importance in age. The oldest races sat highest. Jiho had been to council sessions before, but never one like this. Usually, only a few dozen species attended regular meetings. Today, over 200 were present. An emergency session with full attendance. And humanity was the reason for it. The council speaker, a tall being covered in silver scales, raised 3 of its 4 arms. Its voice came through translation devices that every attendee wore. "We gather to address a matter of great importance," the speaker said. "The species known as humanity has been with us for 7 decades. In that short time, they have caused more disruption than any new species in recorded history. Today, we will hear testimony and make a decision about Earth and its colonies." Jiho felt his stomach tighten. He had known this was coming for months. Reports reached Earth about secret council meetings and private conversations between the elder races. Humanity's rapid expansion had made too many species uncomfortable. Human ships explored systems that older races considered their territory. Human scientists developed weapons that broke ancient agreements. Human colonists refused to follow traditions that had existed for thousands of years. The testimony began. One by one, species came forward with complaints. The Vorkai claimed humans had violated their sacred breeding grounds by establishing a mining operation on a moon they considered holy. The Telenians accused human traders of stealing market share through aggressive tactics. The ancient hierarchy spoke about humans showing disrespect during diplomatic functions. Some accusations were true. Some were exaggerated. A few were completely false. But Jiho could do nothing except stand and listen. Council rules forbade the accused species from speaking until all testimony was complete. Hours passed. The list of complaints grew longer. Jiho's legs began to ache from standing. Mireille shifted her weight from foot to foot beside him. Even Haeon, with all his military training, looked tired. Finally, the testimony ended. The speaker turned toward the human delegation. "Ambassador Jiho Park of Earth, you may now respond to what you have heard." Jiho walked forward alone. His footsteps echoed in the silent hall. He reached the speaking platform and looked up at the hundreds of alien faces watching him. "Honored council members," he began, his voice steady. "I have listened to everything said here today. Some of it is true. Humans have made mistakes. We are young and sometimes act without fully understanding the consequences. We apologize for genuine offenses and are willing to make reasonable compensation." He paused and let his gaze sweep across the assembly. "But let me be clear about something. Most of what you heard today is not about our mistakes. It's about fear. You fear us because we grow quickly. You fear us because we don't do things the way they've always been done. You fear us because in 70 years, we've achieved what took many of you thousands of years. Angry sounds erupted from various parts of the hall. The speaker raised its arms for silence. We came to the stars with hope, Jiho continued. We thought joining the galactic community meant friendship and cooperation. Instead, we found a system designed to keep new species in their place. You have rules for everything. Rules about where we can go, what we can research, how fast we can grow. These rules don't protect anyone. They only protect your power. The speaker's scales rippled with what might have been anger. You speak of things you do not understand, human. This council has maintained peace for over 10,000 years. Our rules exist because chaos is the alternative. Your peace is stagnation, Jiho said. Look around this chamber. I see the same species that dominated the galaxy when humans first arrived. Nothing changes here. Nothing grows. You're so busy protecting the old ways that you've forgotten how to move forward. Enough. The speaker's voice boomed through the hall. The council will now vote on the matter of humanity. Jiho returned to his position beside Heian and Murray. He had said what needed to be said. Now they would face the consequences. The voting took less than 10 minutes. Each council member pressed a device that registered their choice. The results appeared on massive displays throughout the hall. Unanimous. Not a single species had voted in humanity's favor. The speaker announced the verdict. The council has decided that humanity poses a danger to galactic stability. Effective immediately, all human-controlled systems will be placed under quarantine. A barrier will be erected to contain Earth and its colonies. This isolation will remain in effect until humanity demonstrates maturity and willingness to follow council guidance. All trade, communication, and travel between human space and the rest of the galaxy is forbidden. Murray gasped. Hyon's jaw clenched even tighter. Jiho simply nodded. He had expected this, though hoping he was wrong. How long? Jiho asked. The speaker seemed to consider the question. That depends entirely on you. Perhaps a few centuries. Perhaps longer. When you are ready to truly join civilization, the council will reconsider. They activated the barrier 3 days later. Jiho stood on Earth, watching the night sky. One by one, stars began to disappear as the energy field spread across human space. Within hours, every human colony, every human ship, every human outpost was cut off from the galaxy. President Svoman Lee appeared on broadcasts across Earth and all the colonies. Her face was calm, her voice strong. They have tried to cage us, she said. They think isolation will break our spirit and force us to beg for their approval. They are wrong. We will use this time to build something they never imagined. When we emerge from this barrier, it will not be as beggars seeking readmission. It will be as a power they can no longer ignore. Jiho stood in the darkness, watching the last stars vanish behind the barrier. He thought about the speaker's words. A few centuries of isolation. The council expected humans to suffer and weaken. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 50 years had passed since the barrier went up. Outside human space, the galaxy continued its slow existence. Council meetings happened on schedule, following procedures that had remained unchanged for millennia. Trade routes operated with predictable efficiency. Wars were rare and carefully managed when they occurred. Everything moved at the comfortable pace the elder races preferred, at the edge of the quarantine zone. Automated council monitoring stations watched for any sign of human activity. Their reports were always the same. Minimal energy readings. No attempts to break through the barrier. Occasional ship movements between colonies, but nothing concerning. The observations confirmed what council experts had predicted. Cut off from galactic technology and trade, humanity was struggling to survive. In another century or two, they would be desperate enough to accept any terms that council offered, but the monitoring stations could only detect what humanity wanted them to detect, deep inside human space. On a shipyard orbiting Mars, Admiral Taiyang-Shin walked through a construction bay that stretched 4 kilometers. Around him, thousands of workers assembled the largest warship ever built by human hands. The vessel didn't look like council ships with their smooth curves and elegant designs. This ship was angular, aggressive, covered in weapon systems and armor plating. It looked like what it was, a machine built for war. "Status report," Tai Yang said to the chief engineer walking beside him. "The main hull is 90% complete. We're installing the new drive system next week. If Dr. Han's calculations are correct, this ship will be able to cross the entire quarantine zone in less than 3 days." Tai Yang smiled. 3 days to cross a distance that would take Council ships 3 weeks. And this was just the prototype. The production models would be even faster. What about weapons? All primary systems are tested and operational. The railguns can punch through any known Council armor. The missile systems have adaptive targeting that can't be jammed. And the energy shields are strong enough to withstand sustained bombardment from an entire Council battle group. The Admiral stopped walking and turned to look at the massive ship taking shape around them. The Council thought they were punishing us. Instead, they gave us the greatest gift possible, sir. They left us alone, Tai Yang said. No Council bureaucrats telling us what we can or cannot research. No ancient treaties limiting our development. No elder races looking down on us. For 50 years, humanity has been free to innovate without anyone stopping us. He was right, and everyone knew it. The early years after the barrier went up had been difficult. Human colonies that relied on trade with alien species suffered shortages. Scientists who used Council technology had to start over from nothing. But humanity adapted. They always did. Dr. Yuna Han had led the breakthrough that changed everything. She was a physicist who specialized in faster-than-light travel. Before the quarantine, she had studied Council FTL drives, trying to understand the ancient technology. But Council species guarded their secrets carefully. They only shared enough information for other species to use the drives, never enough to truly understand them. Trapped behind the barrier, Yuna had no choice but to develop something completely new. She gathered a team of Earth's best scientists and locked themselves in a research station for 3 years. When they emerged, they had created a drive system based on quantum tunneling that worked on completely different principles than Council technology. It was faster, more efficient, and easier to produce. That single invention transformed everything. Human ships could now move across their territory with unprecedented speed. Supply lines that took months to travel now took days. Exploration vessels could reach distant systems in the time it once took to travel between nearby planets. But FTL drives were just the beginning. Without access to Council resources, humanity had to become self-sufficient in every area. Mining operations expanded to asteroids and uninhabited moons across dozens of systems. Shipyards like the one on Mars appeared throughout human space, each one building vessels designed for specific purposes. Agricultural worlds were established using aggressive, terraforming techniques that would have horrified Council environmentalists. Governor Doyan Kang oversaw many of these colony efforts. He stood on the surface of New Sol, a planet that 50 years ago had been a frozen wasteland. Now it had liquid oceans, breathable atmosphere, and cities spreading across 3 continents. Millions of people called this place home. "How many worlds now?" asked his assistant, a young woman named Heron who managed the terraforming database. 30 are fully habitable, Doyan said. Another 40 are in various stages of development. We're evaluating 50 more for potential colonization. The Council would be horrified. Their rules require centuries of environmental study before any terraforming begins. "Oh," Doyan laughed. "The Council isn't here. We don't follow their rules anymore." That attitude defined the new humanity. The quarantine had forced every Earth nation and every human colony to work together. Old rivalries that dated back centuries disappeared. Everyone understood that survival required unity. Political disputes that once seemed important now appeared petty and wasteful. The United Earth government became a truly unified body, not just in name. Resources flowed to where they were needed most. The brightest minds worked on projects that benefited all of humanity, not just individual nations. Military forces that once faced each other now trained as a single, unified fleet. Captain Guan Nam commanded one of humanity's most important vessels, the Horizon's Edge. Her ship looked ordinary from the outside, like a standard exploration craft. But hidden inside was technology that most humans didn't even know existed. Special equipment designed for a very specific purpose. Spying on the galaxy outside the barrier, Juan sat in her command chair, studying the data streaming across multiple screens. Her crew of 30 worked silently at their stations. They had been stationed at the barrier's edge for 6 months, running tests and collecting information. "Got something," said her sensor officer, a man named June. "There's a council convoy passing nearby. Commercial ships, probably a trade fleet." "Deploy Probe 3, Guan ordered. A small device launched from the horizon's edge. It moved toward the barrier and passed through as if the energy field didn't exist. The probe was invisible to council sensors. Designed using stealth technology that was decades ahead of anything the aliens possessed, it moved alongside the trade convoy, recording everything. "Data coming in," Junho said. "Ship designs, communication protocols, navigation routes. Everything is being captured." Guan nodded. Over the past 3 years, she and other reconnaissance ships had deployed hundreds of probes beyond the barrier. They watched council military exercises, recorded diplomatic communications, and observed daily life throughout the galaxy. Humanity knew everything happening outside their prison. The council, meanwhile, remained blind to what was happening inside. What the probes revealed troubled many human leaders. The galaxy had barely changed in 50 years. The same species dominated the council. The same ancient rules governed everything. Technology had advanced so slowly that it was almost unnoticeable. A council warship built today looked nearly identical to one built half a century ago. The elder races had achieved peace by eliminating change. They had created a stable society by making sure nothing new could disrupt it. Innovation was controlled, regulated, and slowed to a crawl. Young species like humanity were kept weak so they could never challenge the established order. Inside the quarantine zone, humanity had experienced the opposite. Without the Council's restrictions, human technology had advanced at an explosive rate. Ships were faster, weapons more powerful, industries more efficient. The human population had tripled. The military had grown from a modest defense force to a fleet that numbered in the thousands of warships. Admiral Tai Yang reviewed reports in his office at the Mars Orbital Command Center. Intelligence gathered by ships like the Horizon's Edge crossed his desk daily. He saw the truth that many suspected but few wanted to say out loud. Humanity was no longer the weaker species. Somewhere during the 50 years of isolation, they had surpassed the Council in almost every meaningful way. Their ships were better. Their weapons were deadlier. Their tactics were more advanced. If the barrier came down today and war began, humanity would win. The question was, what to do with that power? Some voices in the government argued for revenge. The Council had insulted humanity and locked them away like dangerous animals. When the barrier fell, those species should face consequences. But other voices urged caution. Humanity had survived by adapting, not by seeking conflict. They should continue on their own path and ignore the galaxy that rejected them. President Ki Jong-un, who took office 10 years earlier, favored a middle approach. Humanity would not seek revenge, but they would never again accept inferior status. When they rejoined the galaxy, it would be as equals. If the Council refused to accept that humanity was strong enough now to stand alone, Tai Yang agreed with that philosophy. He looked at the warship taking shape in the construction bay outside his office window. In 6 months, it would be complete. In a year, 5 more just like it would join the fleet. Within 5 years, humanity would have a navy that could challenge the entire Council military. They called the ship class Freedom. It seemed appropriate. The Council had tried to cage humanity, to force them into submission through isolation. Instead, they had created something far more dangerous, a species with nothing to lose and everything to prove. Taiyang turned away from the window, pulled up star charts on his desk display. Beyond the barrier, the galaxy continued its slow dance. Unaware of the storm growing, in human space, that ignorance would not last forever. The warning came from the outer rim of Council space on a cold morning that would be remembered throughout galactic history. A mining colony called Verith Prime simply stopped transmitting. One moment, the orbital stations were sending routine status reports. The next moment, silence. The Council sent an investigation team. They found nothing. No colony, no stations, no ships. Everything had been consumed, broken down to base molecules. All that remained was empty space and a massive debris field that had once been a living world with 10 million inhabitants. Within weeks, 3 more colonies vanished. Then 6, then 12. Panic spread across the galaxy as species realized they faced something unprecedented. The Council's scientists analyzed the debris fields and found traces of technology unlike anything in their records. Machines that could break down matter at the molecular level and use it to build copies of themselves. A swarm that grew exponentially with each world it consumed. They called them the Devourers. No one knew where they came from. The Council mobilized its military for the first time in over 300 years. Battleships that had patrolled peaceful space lanes for generations moved toward the outer rim. Thousands of vessels from dozens of species assembled into task forces under Council command. They represented the combined might of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. It was not enough. The Devourers adapted to every weapon the Council used. Energy shields that had protected ships for millennia failed against weapons that could phase through them. Armor that had withstood centuries of testing melted under focused molecular disassembly beams. Tactics developed over thousands of years of careful study proved useless against an enemy that learned and evolved with each engagement. World after world fell. The death count climbed into the billions. Entire species faced extinction as the Devourers swept through their territories like a mechanical plague inside human space. Defense Coordinator Jinwoo Beek watched the reports coming through the spy probes. His office on Luna had become the center of humanity's intelligence operations. Screens covering every wall displayed information gathered from beyond the barrier. He watched the Council's military struggle against an enemy he could not understand. President Hannah Song entered his office without knocking. She was 50 years old, granddaughter of the president who had led Earth through the early years of isolation. Her family had dedicated 3 generations to building humanity's strength during the quarantine. "How bad is it?" she asked. Jinwoo pulled up a star chart. Red markers indicated lost systems. There were hundreds of them, and the number grew daily. Devourers are winning. Council forces are being destroyed faster than they can be replaced. At this rate, the outer rim will be completely consumed within a year. Then the swarm will move toward the core systems. And eventually, they'll reach us, Hannah said. The barrier won't stop them. Our scientists analyzed the Devourer technology. They can pass through energy fields like the one around human space. Hannah stared at the map for a long moment. The Council had locked humanity away 75 years ago, treating them like dangerous children who needed to be contained. Now that same Council faced extinction, and the barrier they built would eventually trap humanity with the same enemy. "We have a choice to make," Jinwoo said. "We can stay hidden and hope the Council stops the Devourers before they reach us. Or we can act. If we act, we reveal everything. The Council will know what we've become during the isolation. Yes, and they'll know we could have stayed hidden and let them die." Hannah turned away from the screens and walked to the window. Earth hung in the sky beyond, blue and beautiful. 75 years ago, the Council had judged humanity unworthy of joining galactic civilization. They had been wrong then, and they were failing now. "Prepare the fleet," she said. "We're going to intervene." Admiral Sun-Ho Lee received his orders and immediately began organizing the operation. He stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, one of 12 Freedom-class battleships that would lead the assault. Around him, his crew worked with the efficiency that came from years of training. These were not scared colonists or inexperienced recruits. This was humanity's finest military force, equipped with technology the Council had never seen. The plan was bold and simple. Human forces would exit the barrier at 12 different locations simultaneously. They would engage devour concentrations that were currently overwhelming Council defenders. They would demonstrate their strength and capability in the most dramatic way possible. "All ships report ready," said his communications officer. Sun Ho looked at the main screen showing the disposition of his task force. 30 warships in his group alone, and 11 other groups just as strong positioned around the barrier. Over 300 vessels total, each one more advanced than anything the Council possessed. "Begin the operation," he ordered. The Indomitable moved toward the barrier. Technicians had installed special equipment that would allow them to pass through the energy field that had contained humanity for 75 years. The same field the Council believed was impenetrable. They simply phased through it like it was not there. Alarms screamed on, Council monitoring stations as human ships appeared throughout the galaxy in the Corvette system. Captain Borum Yang led her squadron into battle against a devourer fleet that was destroying the last Council defenders. The Asterisk Defiant. Phoenix Asterisk emerged from its phase, jumped directly behind the enemy formation. Borum's tactical display showed 15 devourer vessels surrounding 3 damaged Council battleships. Target. Acquisition complete, her weapons officer reported. Fire. The Defiant Phoenix and her 2 escort ships opened fire simultaneously. Railguns accelerated projectiles to a fraction of light speed. Each shot hit with the force of a small nuclear weapon. The Devourer's adaptive shields, which had proven immune to Council weapons, never encountered kinetic weapons moving at such velocities. The first 3 enemy ships were destroyed before they could react. "They're adapting," Borum's tactical officer warned. "Shields are compensating. Switch to plasma torpedoes. Full spread." New weapons launched from the human ships. These weren't the slow, predictable missiles Council forces used. These were smart weapons with advanced AI systems that could think and adapt faster than the Devourers. They wove through the enemy formation, dodging return fire, selecting the most vulnerable targets. 8 more Devourer ships exploded within seconds. The remaining 4 attempted to retreat, but human ships were faster. Within 10 minutes, the entire enemy fleet was destroyed. The 3 Council battleships that had been moments from destruction could only watch in shock. Their sensors had barely detected the human ships before the battle ended. The commander of the Council force sent a transmission, his voice full of confusion and amazement. "Unknown vessels, please identify yourselves." Borum smiled. "This is Captain Borum Yang of the United Earth Defense Fleet. Consider this a formal introduction." Similar scenes played out across 12 star systems. Human task forces appeared without warning, gauged Devourer concentrations with overwhelming force, and vanished before Council reinforcements could arrive. In every case, humans demonstrated technological and tactical superiority that shocked observers. The recordings spread across the galaxy within hours. Every species, every government, every military commander watched footage of human warships destroying enemies that had defeated the best Council forces. The ships moved faster than anything the Council possessed. Their weapons struck with devastating accuracy. Their tactics showed an understanding of modern warfare that the elder races had lost centuries ago. On Nexus Station, emergency council sessions convened continuously. The great hall that had once voted to exile humanity now buzzed with confused and frightened voices. Representatives demanded explanations. How had humanity developed such technology? Where had they been hiding these ships? Why had the monitoring stations reported minimal activity for 75 years? The ancient hierarchy who had led the vote for human quarantine realized the truth first. The humans had not been struggling behind the barrier. They had been building, growing, and advancing without the Council's knowledge. The isolation meant to weaken them had instead created a military power that now exceeded the Council's own forces. One of the hierarchy's eldest members addressed the assembly. Its voice carried the weight of 5,000 years of life. "We have made a grave error," it said. "We judged humanity by our own standards, assuming they would react to isolation as we would. We did not understand what we were dealing with. These humans do not think like us. Where we seek stability and order, they embrace change and chaos. Where we value ancient wisdom, they pursue constant innovation. We tried to cage a storm and wondered why it grew stronger. In the Corvette system, Borum received new orders from Admiral Sunho. The demonstration was complete. All human forces were to return to the barrier immediately. They had made their point. Now humanity would wait to see how the Council responded, as the defiant Phoenix prepared to jump back to human space. Borum looked at the damaged Council ship still floating nearby. She thought about the billions of lives the Devourers had already taken. She thought about the millions more who would die if the Council fell. Humanity had been exiled and rejected. They owed the Council nothing. But this was not about debt or obligation. This was about doing what was right, regardless of past insults. Elm, take us home, she ordered. Behind her, the Council fleet began picking up their dead and trying to understand what they had just witnessed. The galaxy had changed in a single day, and nothing would ever be the same again. Ambassador Minho Choi stood at the viewport of the Sovereign, watching Nexus Station grow larger as they approached. The station was enormous, a structure built over thousands of years that housed the seat of galactic government. For 75 years, humans had been forbidden from entering these spaces. Now Minho was returning, but not as a supplicant begging for readmission. He came as a representative of a power that the Council could no longer ignore. Behind him, his team prepared for what would be the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. There were 20 specialists covering everything from military affairs to trade negotiations. But everyone understood that this meeting would not be decided by technical details. It would be decided by will and strength. The Sovereign docked at a station port, usually reserved for the elder races. Council security forces stood at the entrance, clearly uncertain how to handle the situation. Humanity had not requested permission to attend. They had simply announced their arrival and come anyway. Minho walked down the boarding ramp with his head high. The security chief, a multi-limbed creature from a species whose name Minho had forgotten, stepped forward nervously. Ambassador, the Council has not officially invited you to attend this session. Council is welcome to try stopping us, Minho replied calmly. But I think we both know that would be unwise. The security chief's limbs twitched in what might have been resignation. He stepped aside and gestured toward the entrance. The session has already begun. The Council is waiting for you. The Great Hall looked exactly as Jiho Park had described it from 75 years ago. Thousands of beings filled the space, representing every major species in the galaxy. But today, the usual orderly atmosphere was replaced by barely contained chaos. Voices echoed from every direction as representatives argued, demanded answers, and expressed fear about what humanity had become. When Minho entered with his delegation, silence fell across the entire chamber. Every eye turned toward the humans. Minho felt the weight of their stares but did not slow his pace. He walked directly to the center platform where speakers addressed the Council. The speaker, a different individual than the one who had presided over humanity's exile, raised its arms for attention. Ambassador Choi, you were not summoned to this session. No, Minho agreed. We are not here because you summoned us. We are here because the galaxy faces a crisis, and humanity has decided to be part of the solution. Whether you like it or not, angry sounds erupted from various sections of the hall. A representative from the Vorkai species, same one that had testified against humanity decades ago, stood and pointed an accusing limb at Minho. You violated the quarantine. You built weapons in secret. You spied on us. These are acts of aggression that cannot be ignored. Minho turned to face the Vorkai directly. You are right. We violated the quarantine. We've built weapons. We spied on you. Do you know why? Because you left us no choice. You locked us away and expected us to wither and die. Instead, we thrived. He pulled out a small device and activated it. Holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, showing footage of human space. Images of thriving colonies, massive shipyards, and advanced technology filled the air. Representatives watched in stunned silence as they saw what humanity had built during their isolation. This is what 75 years of freedom looks like, Minho said. While you held committee meetings and debated protocols, we were building. While you maintained your ancient traditions, we were innovating. While you rested on the achievements of your ancestors, we were creating our own future. General Sujin Park stepped forward to deliver the military assessment. She was a small woman, with gray hair, and a reputation for brutal honesty. She had commanded human forces during the Devourer engagements and knew exactly how the two sides compared. The ships you saw engaged the Devourers represent less than 15% of our total military strength, she said. We deployed those forces because they were closest to the crisis zones. Our full fleet numbers over 2,000 warships, each one built with technology that exceeds Council standards by several generations. She activated another display showing human ship designs alongside Council vessels. The differences were obvious even to non-military observers. Human ships were faster, more heavily armed, and incorporated defensive systems that the Council had not even theorized yet. Your largest battleships carry crews of 3,000, Sujin continued. Ours require fewer than 200 due to automation and AI assistance. Your ships take months to build. Ours take weeks. Your weapons can be adapted to by learning systems like the Devourers. Ours use multiple delivery methods that make adaptation nearly impossible. Council military commander from the ancient Telarian species interrupted. This is impossible. Our civilizations have been developing military technology for thousands of years. You cannot surpass us in mere decades. You developed military technology for thousands of years, Sujin corrected. Then you stopped. You became comfortable. You created rules and traditions that prevented innovation. You forgot that technology advances through competition and necessity, not through committee meetings and ancient protocols. She turned to address the entire chamber. Do you want to know the real difference between us? We were fighting for survival. Every day of those 75 years, we knew we were alone. We knew no one would help us if disaster struck. That knowledge drove us to become better, faster, stronger. You had the luxury of safety and stability. We had only ourselves. The council chamber erupted in arguments. Some species praised humanity's achievements. Others demanded sanctions. The elder races seemed particularly disturbed. Their ancient positions of dominance suddenly threatened. Counselor Thresh, one of the longest-lived beings in the galaxy, rose to speak. Its voice carried authority that came from witnessing the rise and fall of entire civilizations. What are humanity's intentions? It asked simply. You have demonstrated strength. You have saved Council forces from the Devourer threat. But strength without purpose is merely danger. What do you want? The chamber fell silent, waiting for Minho's answer. This was the moment that would define humanity's future relationship with the galaxy. We want what we have always wanted, Minho said. Respect, equality, the freedom to chart our own course without interference from species who think they know better simply because they are older. He paused to let his words sink in. You judged us 75 years ago? You decided we were too young, too reckless, too dangerous. You were wrong. The galaxy you created is dying. Your ancient traditions cannot save you from modern threats. Your careful protocols and committee decisions move too slowly to address real crises. The Devourers proved that. They are a threat you could not handle alone. Your military, with all its ancient experience and traditional tactics, was being destroyed. It took humans, with our mere decades of experience, to show you how to fight them. President Hannah Song's image appeared on the displays. Transmitted from Earth, she addressed the council with the same strength. Her grandmother had shown during humanity's darkest hours. We are not asking to rejoin your galactic community, she said. We do not need your permission or approval. We have built our own civilization, one that does not require your blessing to exist. However, we are willing to offer cooperation. Not as junior partners or supervised children, but as equals. She outlined humanity's proposal. Humans would share some of their defensive technology to help combat the Devourer threat. In return, the Council would formally recognize human sovereignty and abandon all oversight of human affairs. The quarantine barrier would be removed. Human ships would have access to all neutral space. And most importantly, humanity would have a full vote in council decisions equal to the eldest races. If you accept these terms, Hannah continued, humanity will be a valuable ally. We will help defend the galaxy and contribute our innovation to the common good. If you reject them, we will simply continue on our own path. We do not need you, but you need us. The council debated for 3 days. Behind closed doors, the elder races struggled with a reality they had never imagined. For thousands of years, they had controlled the galaxy's development. They had decided which species would be allowed to advance and which would remain subordinate. Humanity had broken that system simply by refusing to accept their assigned place. Some species adapted quickly. They saw opportunity in partnership with humanity. Others resisted, clinging to traditions and hierarchies that were older than human civilization. The hierarchy spoke most strongly against Hannah's proposal, arguing that accepting humanity as equals would undermine the entire structure of galactic governance. But even as they debated, the Devourers continued their assault. More worlds fell. More billions died. The crisis forced a decision that pride alone might have delayed indefinitely. On the 4th day, the vote was called. The chamber filled once more as representatives made their choices. Minho stood before them, knowing that this vote would determine whether humanity faced the future as part of the galactic community, or entirely separate from it. The results appeared on displays throughout the hall. It was not unanimous this time. Nearly 40% of the council voted against the proposal, but the majority supported it, only because the alternative was to face the Devourers without humanity's help. The speaker announced the result formally. The council accepts Earth's terms. Humanity will be recognized as a sovereign equal with full voting rights. The quarantine is ended. We welcome humans to the galactic community, not as children to be guided, but as partners to be respected. Minho nodded slowly. It was not the overwhelming acceptance he might have hoped for, but it was enough. Humanity had gone from exiled outcasts to recognized equals in 75 years. History would remember this moment as the day the galaxy changed forever. As he left the chamber, Minho thought about Jiho Park, the ambassador who had stood in this same place decades ago and defied the council's judgment. He wished Jiho could have lived to see this day. But Jiho had died 20 years earlier, confident that his sacrifice and the sacrifices of his generation would not be forgotten. They had been proven right. The species the council tried to cage had become the power that the council now needed, and there was no going back. 5 years after the barrier fell, the galaxy looked different than anyone could have predicted. The Devourer threat had been contained but not eliminated. Scattered remnants of the mechanical swarm still attacked isolated systems, requiring constant vigilance. The Joint Human Council, military forces that fought them, operated under a new command structure that many elder races still found uncomfortable. Fleet Admiral Kiwan No. Han stood on the bridge of the Liberation, a massive command ship that coordinated defensive operations across 12 sectors. Around him, his staff included both humans and aliens, working together with varying degrees of success. Some species adapted well to human leadership. Others followed orders, but made their resentment clear. "Admiral, we have a situation in the Durnak system," his tactical officer reported. She was human, a young woman named Yuri, who had graduated top of her class at the new Joint Military Academy. 3 Devourer ships detected moving toward the colony world. Council forces in the area are requesting support. Al-Kiwan studied the tactical display. The Council ships were older vessels, slower than modern human designs. By the time they reached Durnax, thousands of colonists might be dead. "How far out is the 7th Squadron?" 40 minutes at maximum speed, sir. Send them. Full combat authorization. I want those Devourer ships destroyed before they reach orbit. The order transmitted instantly. Somewhere across the vast darkness of space, human warships received their mission and jumped toward Durnax. They would arrive in time to save the colony. Just as human forces had saved dozens of systems over the past 5 years, but saving lives came with complications. Every time human military superiority was demonstrated, it created friction with Council forces who remembered their former dominance. Every time human tactics succeeded where traditional approaches failed, It challenged thousands of years of military doctrine. The elder races had not expected to become junior partners in their own defensive forces. On Earth, Trade Minister Yunjiam dealt with different kinds of complications. She sat in her office in Geneva, reviewing contracts and trade agreements that were reshaping the galactic economy. Before the barrier fell, Council species controlled all major trade routes and resources. They had millennia of established relationships and carefully balanced economic arrangements. Humanity disrupted everything. Human merchants moved faster and operated more efficiently than their alien competitors. Human manufacturers produced goods at prices that undercut traditional suppliers. Human innovators created new technologies that made entire industries obsolete overnight. "The Vorkai are complaining again," said her assistant, a man named Changmin, who managed diplomatic communications. "They say our mining operations in the coral sector violate their historical claims to those systems." Yunji pulled up the relevant files. The coral sector was unclaimed space, according to all council charts before we arrived. The Vorkai never bothered to survey it because it was too far from their core systems. Now that we've found valuable resources there, suddenly they have historical claims. What should I tell them? Tell them they're welcome to file a complaint with the Council's Trade Commission. Then remind them that we're currently their largest supplier of medical technology, and that our next shipment is scheduled for delivery next month. Let them decide if they want to risk that relationship over mining rights they never exercised. It was hardballed negotiation. But Yunji had learned early that showing weakness in galactic trade meant getting exploited. The elder races had played these games for thousands of years. They respected strength and took advantage of hesitation. Humanity had to be willing to push back, even when it created tension. Not all interactions were hostile. Some species genuinely benefited from human presence and embraced the partnership. The Selenar, a species of skilled engineers, formed joint ventures with human corporations that combined their traditional craftsmanship with human innovation. The result was technology that neither species could have created alone. But success created its own problems. The more humans expanded, the more they encountered resentment from species who saw their traditional positions threatened. Colonial Administrator Xiaogen Quan dealt with these issues daily as human settlements spread into new regions of space. He stood on the bridge of a transport ship carrying 10,000 colonists to New Busan, a planet in what used to be unclaimed territory on the edge of council space. Through the viewport, he could see the green and blue world growing larger as they approached. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from a council patrol ship," the communications officer said. "They're demanding we turn back. They say this system was designated for future Talarian expansion." Xiaogen had dealt with this situation before. "Tell them that according to council colonization laws, any species with the capability and resources can claim unclaimed systems. Ask them if the Talarians have filed official claim documents. If not, this world is open for settlement." The patrol ship's commander appeared on screen, his reptilian features showing clear irritation. "Your people move too fast. You expand too aggressively. This behavior destabilizes the careful balance we have maintained." "With respect, Commander, that careful balance nearly got your civilization destroyed by the Devourers. Perhaps aggressive expansion is exactly what the galaxy needs." The patrol ship eventually withdrew, but Xiaogen knew this would not be the last confrontation. Every new human colony created similar tensions. The elder races had expanded slowly over millennia, taking centuries to develop new worlds. Humans moved at 10 times that speed, claiming and terraforming planets in decades rather than centuries. Not everyone in the council opposed this expansion, but those who did were forming alliances. Intelligence Director Narration tracked these developments from her headquarters on Luna. Her network of agents and analysts monitored communications across the galaxy, watching for threats to human interests. The hierarchy has been meeting with 6 other elder races. She reported to President Hannah Song during their weekly briefing. They're calling themselves the Preservation Coalition. Their stated goal is to maintain traditional galactic order. Their actual goal, Hannah asked, to contain human influence. They can't match us militarily, so they're working through political channels, building voting blocks in the council, creating economic pressure, using procedural rules to slow down human initiatives. Hannah considered this information carefully. Are they a serious threat? Not immediately. But over time, they could make things difficult. They're also spreading propaganda about humans being destabilizing and dangerous. Some younger species are listening. Keep monitoring them. If they cross any lines, I want to know immediately. The political maneuvering was frustrating but expected. What worried human leadership? More was the mystery surrounding themselves. Dr. Jaewon Ryu led the research team, studying captured devourer technology. At a secure facility on Titan, what they discovered raised troubling questions. These machines were not naturally occurring. Jaewon explained during a presentation to the Defense Council. The technology shows clear evidence of deliberate design. Someone built the devourers and released them into the galaxy.
Oh, wait, what?
Admiral Kiwon asked. We don't know. The design principles don't match any known species, including humans. Whoever created them had technology that exceeds even our current capabilities in some areas. Could it be an extinct civilization? Ancient builders? Possibly. But there's another explanation. Jaewon pulled up analysis data. The timing is suspicious. The Devourers appeared shortly after humanity demonstrated the ability to break the quarantine barrier. Some in our intelligence community think this might not be coincidence. The implications hung heavy in the room. If someone had deliberately unleashed the Devourers to destabilize the galaxy, or target humanity specifically, it meant there were players involved beyond the Council's knowledge. Ambassador Minho Choi brought this evidence to the Council, proposing a joint investigation. Some species cooperated fully, sharing data and resources. Others deflected questions and seemed reluctant to pursue the matter. Their behavior made Minho suspicious. Someone knows more than they're saying, he told his staff after a particularly frustrating council session. The question is whether they're hiding knowledge about who created the Devourers, or if they created the Devourers themselves. Would any council species do such a thing? His aide asked. 5 years ago, I would have said no. Now, I think some of the elder races are desperate enough to try anything that might put humanity back in our place. The investigation continued, but answers remained elusive. Meanwhile, daily life across human space reflected the dramatic changes of the past 80 years. On Earth, a memorial opened to commemorate the exile period. Millions attended the ceremony, including survivors who remembered the barrier going up. President Hannah Song spoke at the dedication. 80 years ago, the galaxy judged us and found us wanting. They locked us away, expecting us to beg for their forgiveness. Instead, we built something they never imagined. We turned their punishment into our greatest advantage. She gestured to the memorial, a massive structure showing the names of everyone who had lived through the exile. These people sacrificed comfort and security to build a better future. They worked in shipyards and laboratories, on colonies and research stations. They gave their lives so that their children would inherit a civilization strong enough to stand on its own. Today, we are no longer the exiled. We are equals in the galactic community, but equals on our own terms. We did not earn this position by following their rules or accepting their judgment. We earned it by refusing to be limited by their expectations. The speech resonated across human space and beyond. Many alien species watched the ceremony, seeing the pride and unity that the exile had forged. Some found it inspiring. Others found it threatening. Admiral Guan Nam, promoted after her successful reconnaissance missions, commanded the newest and most advanced vessel in the fleet. The Pathfinder was more than a warship. It was an exploration vessel, designed to push beyond the boundaries of known space. She stood in the observation deck as her ship prepared to jump beyond the galactic rim. Her mission was to explore uncharted regions, searching for both opportunities and threats. The Council had never bothered to explore these distant areas. They were content to remain within established boundaries. Humanity was not content. They never had been. All systems ready, Admiral, her first officer reported. We can jump on your command. Guan looked out at the stars one last time before they entered unknown space. Somewhere out there might be answers about the Devourers. Somewhere out there might be new allies or new enemies. Somewhere out there was the future that humanity would claim for themselves. "Begin the jump," she ordered. The Pathfinder vanished into the darkness, carrying humanity's banner to places no council species had ever dared to explore. Behind her, across hundreds of systems, billions of humans continued the work of building their civilization. They had been exiled as weak children. They had emerged as a force that shaped the galaxy's future. The Council had tried to cage humanity, to force them into submission through isolation. Instead, they had created something far more powerful, a species that knew it could survive anything, adapt to any challenge, and thrive without anyone's permission or approval. The galaxy would never be the same. The old order built over thousands of years was crumbling. In its place, something new was emerging. Whether that new order would be better than what came before remained to be seen, but one thing was certain. Humanity would help write that future, and no one would ever exile them again.